Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. Marvin's back. It's been 2 years, a long 2 years. It's been a journey, man. How have you been?
Good, man. Good. It has been a while, and a lot can happen in 2 years, right?
You joined the Sith, I see.
Yeah, we joined the Sith. I mean, hey, I didn't want to end up being Nokia. If iPhone's gonna go that way, I'm gonna go that way. It just happens to be the way it is, and the Sith seems to be doing it.
Well, I mean, look, to be honest, if you had superpowers, and I've talked to plenty of researchers who study comic books about this, if you throw somebody in jail and they break out and then come after your family, wouldn't it just be easier to toss them out a window? I hate to say it like that.
Yes, it would be.
Thank you.
What
That's
a
it.
simple
End of the
resolution.
movie. You know how many movies that are superhero movies that could have been cut in 2 seconds?
How many times did Joker go to Arkham? Right? It's like, dude, just kill the guy.
I know, and they're making a second Joker one with Joaquin Phoenix. I'm pretty excited.
I
You didn't
hope
like the
so.
first one?
I loved the first one.
I
That's
know.
the problem,
Oh. It was so
right?
relatable though, where I was like, this either says something about me, and then I went to like my psychiatrist. I'm like, bro, real quick, if you ever start laughing on a bus, chaotically, that'd be a horrible disease to have. I can tell you that much.
Ugh, yeah, and depending on where you're at, like where I live, like people will be like, this guy needs committed, right? But then if I go to like LA, they're gonna be like, it's Tuesday again.
He's an
This
artist.
guy's yeah,
He's an
yeah,
artist.
what a genius.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That's what gets me so upset is like I've been doing some painting and some like Bob Ross stuff, and I've been the paintings are pretty good. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but
I did see.
they're
I
not
paid
half
attention.
bad. But then someone throws like a little brush stroke on a canvas or just takes their paintbrush and throws it at the canvas, and that thing sells for like $50 million. Where I'm just like, society isn't fair.
Yeah, when they're looking at it and they're like, this is so complex. God, he's so in depth. This really speaks to me. It's like, yeah, this is one where I dropped the brush on accident when the canvas was on the floor. Accidentally, it got hung up here.
Accident or an intention from God.
That could be divine, so divine. You know, I went at the. Are we doing shameless plugs this time?
You can do it if you want.
Oh, cool. I went out to LA a few weeks ago to consult on a project with an actor. And it's an actor that had been on like movies that people would probably know and been on some television programs.
Ben Affleck.
And same thing. Like you were talking about the artist side of it. The only reason I was there to consult it wasn't because of like Marvin's this huge, great, giant intelligence. Is because the character is a line striper who puts, paints lines for the roads and parking lots, whatever. And at night, the character goes back and creates beautiful canvases and throws glass beads on and uses the stencils to like make fine art or whatever. And we went through the process and I got the guy used to the machines and we did paint some canvases and do some stuff. We got done and he's like, dude, these would totally sell for like crazy money. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah, for real. He's like, they really would. He's like, that's why this movie has legs. He's like, they totally would. And I'm like, dude, we got like fucking 500 of these on cardboard or tar paper or some shit at my shop. Like they're just laying there. Like how much money am I sitting on? Who knows? Who
Have you
knows?
tried like putting them up on one of those Facebook
Fuck
pages? And
no.
no, why?
Because they're to us, they're garbage. Right? They're just there. They're just like
One
scrap
man's
pieces.
trash is another man's treasure.
That's what they say. That's what they say. So who knows, bro? Maybe at some point, maybe one day when I'm successful, they'll have some legs and be like, these were all Marvin's pieces.
You're pretty successful. I've seen you at some of those conferences or whichever you're doing recently. You went to a podcasting expo. Are those things real?
I didn't go to a podcasting expo. We went to Con Expo, which is the construction expo. It's the largest one in like they only do it every 3 years because it takes that long to plan and put out.
They
I
got
was
to
on
build the facility. That's why. It's the whole point.
dude, it was in Vegas and literally I was on ground 4 days going to like deliverables, which are like clients that you go and make content for, or whatever, and tracked our steps, did the step conversion like on Google, and it was 67 miles I walked in 4 days at this expo. And I was like, Jesus. And thankfully, the company that holds the expo, because it's big, because they knew there were going to be a lot of media coverage, they built podcast studios and interview studios within the media room. So we were able to go there. They knew we were coming. They knew we would host podcast. was lucky enough to have some of our creators here at Blacktop Banter there doing podcasts as well. So yeah, dude, it's been a wild trip because, you know, like you said, it's been a couple of years since I've been on here. The last time I was on, Blacktop Banter was in the basement of my house, right? And was just like at my table where literally I was doing asphalt estimates 10 minutes before we would go on air and talk or whatever. But since then we've moved. Obviously, we're in a new studio. There's employees at Blacktop Banter that are completely separate from any of my other businesses with videographers and stuff. So you never really quite know what's going to happen. But when I first started it, I was walking around with a selfie stick, like trying to get people to do interviews, and it was awkward. And now when we go places, people are like, "Hey, hey, hey, can you stop by our booth? Hey, 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 we really want to make a video with you. Hey, we want to do this." And now these companies, these expos are like catering to content creators to really help them generate buzz. They understand that the podcast, social media, all that stuff has a lot of legs going into the future.
It's different because, like, if you look at media back in the day, it would be okay if somebody would come up with you with a camera or something, and or recording a little microphone with a giant box. It could probably, getting some radiation poisoning off of it, and just come up to you real quick. What do you think about the weather? And then the person's like, It's sunny," and you're like, "Thank you so much. That's going to be our content for the next week." And then they'd walk away. And then now it's like it got to a point where everyone had their phones out and it was becoming a big problem. And now it's like you don't know if someone's a TikTok star, which I just started using TikTok. I know the last time you were on, you were talking about how your video was getting like thousands of views, basically just some simple stuff of like just cementing or blacktopping, whatever it is. And with TikTok on, I just started using it just a little bit, just posting up clips. I'm good in short segments. I should have took the advice that somebody in my family told me that, like, you're good in short bursts, but too long exposure of time, people just, oh, this doesn't work out. They were right because TikTok's my platform. Doesn't matter if anybody's stealing my information at this point. I don't have anything secret on my phone anyway. I am getting a lot of ads for like really dumb stuff, and I'm like, unless it's like thinking or it's predicting my thoughts. I don't say any of these vocally, but then I'll get like a temple retreat. I'm like, a temple retreat? I wanted to go to a temple. Did I? No, I might have just been brainwashed because I think monks are cool. And that's because I don't know. I've seen plenty of kung fu movies when I was a kid, and they just sit there and hang a brick from their nuts. I don't know. It's just it sounds fascinating to me.
That does sound fascinating. I don't know that it personally sounds fascinating for me, but I would watch, I guess, if we're going to talk about the brick from the nuts. But I got an ad the other day. So our TikTok since then, um, like probably our most successful ones got 18 million views. And
Jesus.
when that happened, like the ads like just started being ridiculous, dude. Like just the craziest shit would come along. And after a while, like almost the ads were premonitious of my future because I get one for a bracelet was like, do you love your dog? You can get a photo of your dog inside of your bracelet and you put it up to the light and
Oh
I can see
God.
your dog. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool if I had a dog.
Then you
Later
bought a
on, I
dog.
get a dog. Yeah,
Th-
later on, I get a dog. I'm like,
okay.
hey, I want one of those bracelets. Where's the ad for the bracelet with the dog in it? Yeah, so dude, it's wild. We ads have increased quite a bit more, which I had a feeling marketing would destroy social media at some point, and I'm pretty sure we're pretty close to that. Um,
Really? You think that?
yeah, I think so. I think for us, especially in my industry, most of the dollars that contractors and companies are spending are now geared towards internet and social media marketing, which means that there's only so much time in a day, right? So they it's hard to scale um social media because it's time oriented. Even with like our podcast, right? I would love to have 30 advertisers. That's never going to happen. No one's going to listen to that shit if it's like and then a word from our sponsors. You come back and like and then that's how we ended up performing the task. Let's go to another word from our sponsors, right? Like, dude, no one's going to listen to that. So even at the beginning, like the 3 or 4 minutes that we have with our legit sponsors here at Blacktop Banner, Chris, who's our content director, is like, Marvin, you can't. Like, you're either going to have to shoot for bigger sponsors and charge them more or something, right? Along those lines. So that's with us personally. Now, when we promote on social media where there's millions of creators, and these companies are trying to get more advertising dollars. The only way you can really do it is to pump more ads in, right? Because you like, dude, I've seen ads for like the most bogus shit that they're like, it's like infomercial stuff that we would see when we were kids up past 2 a.m. And you're like, oh, the Ninja Chop. Like the only place you ever seen the ad for that was on an infomercial. That's the type of stuff that we're starting to see now through the ads on social media, right? Like, but you see guys like Dr. Squatch soap who killed it right at the beginning of it when they were just like, men like soap, men like to be in the woods. Get Dr. Squatch. Oh, Dr. Squatch. And there's like two ladies, right? And then all of a sudden there's 10 more soaps where they're like, yeah, we're gonna follow that. And it's getting flooded. And I think it's gonna get flooded pretty bad, which you see a lot of, at least we do, right? In the marketing side. You see a lot of comparative apps. Like TikTok has like 2 or 3 competitors now. And then Instagram and Facebook had competitors where Snapchat never had ads. Now all of a sudden there's tons of ads when you roll up through Snapchat, when you're going through stories and stuff. So I think they're going to flood it. I think it's going to get pretty bad, but I think actually we're probably on the verge of humans consuming content differently within the next 5-10 years. I think
Well,
so.
attention spans are shot to shit.
Dude, it's
Um,
terrible, dude.
I think the market is saturated. I just don't think I don't know. They've kind of led the keys to success to be through the social platform where growth in the beginning was take this risk of entering the social world and seeing what will happen. And then now at this point, it's just like, well, now it's the only way.
It
Um,
is. It's natural.
which sucks because even Tinder has ads. I'm like, fuck. All I want to do is swipe. And they keep saying, would you like to go to this Cracker Barrel? I'm like, to be honest, the past couple of swipes ain't looking so good, but the Cracker Barrel one's looking pretty damn tasty right
That's
now.
right. I'm going right on the Cracker Barrel.
Especially like it's 2 o'clock in the morning is like the time you're on Tinder. They always say it's the late night hours. It's the best times, peak times to be on Tinder, best times to get a match. I'm like, no, it's the best times to find someone who's desperate. And that's okay. That's where I
Yeah, I was gonna
arrive.
say that's bar time, bro. Like that's the end. We're here where we are, 2 a.m. is bar time. And that's usually when everyone's looking around going, well, what are my options? You know what I mean?
Saddle up. That's the option.
It's right. I'll order a double, and I'm gonna go say what's up. Yeah, but I think like it's a great marketing strategy because, dude, one of the best pickup lines that people used forever was like, you know, what's your favorite breakfast, right? Or hey, I want to know what to order you for
Is
breakfast.
that
And
really a
like,
pickup line? What's your favorite breakfast?
yeah, they're like, people will be like, dude, I know it because shit, I've seen it in movies from way back. I'm a big '80s movies fan, so I'm sure it was in one of those where it's like pancakes or waffles. I'm like, what? I want to know what to order you for breakfast in the morning. Oh, dang. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, dude, if it's Denny's or Cracker Barrel or whatever these breakfast joints are, and it's late at night on Tinder, those are going hand in hand, man.
See, this is my pickup on it. Hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, nice to meet you. I'm like, I would like to take you out. Oh no, I say, hey, my name's Robbie. It's nice to meet you. And I shake their hand. And they go, okay. And they go, oh, it's nice to meet you too. And I'm like, hey, can I ask you, take you out sometime? And they'll be like, well, I don't know you. I was like, I just introduced myself. Are you
Yeah,
not listening?
yeah.
And then make
What's
them
wrong
feel
with
like
you?
crap. Yeah.
Yeah, what's
God,
wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Did you not just, we're not strangers.
I bet you didn't graduate high school and then
I
walk
bet
out
if
the
I would
door.
have warmed my face up, you would be okay with it. Yeah, 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 dude. It's awkward out there. The craziest thing that I've seen lately is that people who don't try very hard do really well, and people who do try to be a normal human flounder, right? So the
I'm just
dynamic is changing out there.
I'm not. I think everyone's too into the social platform. So where you go out in public, it's very hard to communicate with people without someone being on a phone or doing something of that sort. Like I've just been recently going out with friends to like bars and stuff because I hadn't done it. Really, I was never a bar person. I honestly don't like them because, especially like if you're kind of sober and everyone else is just hardcore drinking, and you spend like $600, which is just like there's no point in that. But I don't ever drink unless it's a pina colada. Judge me if you want. I don't care. Um, but I went to like 4 different bars and I was kind of DD, so I was not doing anything. And then we get to this bar. So I had did 5 hours of cardio. I hadn't eaten anything since 8 a.m. It's now 7 p.m. I had nothing to drink since 8 a.m. or eat since 8 a.m. So I go in there and they go, we ordered you pina colada. I was like, oh shit. And then I
It's on. Yeah.
what I always say is like don't put any of like the whipped cream and stuff on there. Like, don't do
Right.
that. I don't into all that shit. Just give me
Just
the
ice. Just blend the ice with a pina colada mix. Let's
just
roll.
the drink. And she puts it down, and I go grab it, and I just go, and I mean, I chugged it less than a minute. Done. Put it back on the
Sure, it's
table. And
delicious. It's
the bartender,
delicious.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Thank you. And the bartender goes, "Holy shit, you drank that already?" And everyone at the bar who I did not know just starts busting out laughing. And I go, "Yeah, mother, why'd you gotta call me out like that, man?
I know. Yeah.
Damn." Roasted me in front of everybody. I was like, shit. She's like, "Do you want another one?" I was like, "No." She's like, "I put extra rum in that one." And I was like, "I could taste it."
Yeah, I can taste it. Yeah, my esophagus is in Maui. I'm still stuck here in this bar. Yeah, yeah, I'm still
I'm in
stuck here in this
Cancun,
bar.
baby.
I'm in Cancun, and you all are still here at the bar. What's funny is like I always find that hilarious, bro, because most of the time, um, people who tend bars usually tend that bar regularly, right? Because they like to fit in, that's their crowd, whatever, whatever. I always find it funny when people who don't go to bars regularly, like myself, like yourself, go there and then they do something and they get laughed at by all these people that literally live at the bar and have nothing going on and are drinking all the time to dull everything else that they have going around them. Like
Life is
they're the
pain.
ones laughing at other people. I'm like, I guess go ahead if it makes you feel good, but I'm not actually the one that's like enjoying this moment.
I didn't feel super embarrassed. They were just asking, how did I not get brain freeze? And I was like, there's a trick. You just stick your tongue to your roof of your mouth.
Did they believe you?
They kind of go, oh. And then they went back to their drinks.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I would have said the trick is you just shut your brain off.
Or I just said like I have a rare disease where my brain is not affected by any just
Stop.
just jump right down the rabbit holes where they start going, oh my God, please tell me more. And then you just that's what happens is sometimes I get involved in a story and usually I say I'm joking when I'm saying something that is necessarily not true. And then sometimes like especially everyone now, it's like, hey, good morning. And then they're still walking as they're asking you how your morning is. And then it's like they don't really care. So then in that quick 20 seconds, I have to think of like like there's a person at my work that thinks I'm French and I'm not French. But she every time, every morning, bonjour. I'm like, I don't
Bonjour.
remember what I fucking said to you, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
can't back
Uh,
out now. It's been going for 4 years.
yeah, dude. The craziest thing is when you get to do that and you disrupt the paradigm that they're in, right? It's like normally they're like, "Hey, good morning. Hey, good morning. How are you? Good. How are you? Awful." Like it's just one word. They're like, "That's not how this is supposed to go."
Yeah. You're in their head, they're like, oh fuck. Like what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do.
yeah, 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 yeah. You're like, oh no. It's like just one little thing, which is it that so that's a system glitch, right? Remember when Facebook shut down like last year, the year before, whatever, for like a day and a half, and people were
Yeah,
like
with
that's
Twitter too.
yeah, and Twitter. That's essentially like what happens when you do that to people. And they're like, no, 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 no. This is the system doesn't work like this. Like it disrupts it. Some of that, dude, is my funnest shit ever. Like I'll take people on a journey through conversation and see just to where they're riding that line of, is this for real or is this not for real? And then if I can tell that they're starting to be like, he's bullshitting me, I'll lace it with some real good fact. And then they'll be like, maybe he's not bullshitting me. And we just keep riding that wave all the way until finally I decide I'm going to push it over the edge. And then they'll be like, you're bullshitting me. This is all bullshit. And then I'm like, yeah, I was. It was great. It was great to just take a hold and make that happen a lot.
Some people can handle that, and then some people can't. Like, there's a
Oh,
point where
yeah,
you
for
go a little
sure.
too far with it. Like, when we went all out drinking last weekend, there was a bunch of people I didn't know that were all like urgent care people, like friends of my friend who all work at the same doctor's office and stuff. And then I'm sitting at the table, and about 5 minutes in, I've made the decision in my mind: if I ever get fucking injured, I'm not going to any of these people ever.
Yeah.
They don't know
Just let me
anything.
be.
I was like, I could Google and take the WebMD cancer diagnosis over whatever you guys are going to give me. You guys would probably give me the same thing. But one of the people there he was already at the bar. He worked there. So when he got off work, just started drinking and he comes over and sits by us and everything. And he's like a roommate of one of the friends. And I'm sitting in like the middle. And then he just starts talking to this girl. And one of the girls go, really? Are you serious? And he goes, yeah, I'm gay. And he goes down this rabbit hole for like 20 minutes where I'm listening to this. And I go, and then she's like not really buying it. And now she starts getting upset. And I'm like, oh God, he really stepped on a landmine. How do I back him out of this situation? I don't know the guy that well. So I'm just trying to be like help out. And I go, all right. I was like, let's go in the bathroom then. And then he stands up, and then I stand up, and then I'm looking at him, and I'm like, one of us is playing chicken. I ain't backing the fuck. It's like when you get out of your car out of aggressive road rage. Like,
Don't
when
call.
you
Yeah,
get,
that's right. Don't you call my bluff, guy.
so
Yep.
when you're driving and someone gets out of the car, you get out of your car, but you ain't gonna be the first one to get back in your car first. So then, like, we're sitting there. He's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Are you serious?" And then we're both sitting, and this girl's just like, "What is happening right now?" And I'm looking at him, and I was like, "I mean, make a move, son." And
Yeah.
he's like, coming back this, and it's like, do I move my head in too? And I was like, I'm not kissing this guy. I'm gonna back out 100%. It's not gonna happen. But then it goes down singing, and then he's like, you know what? He's like, I don't think you're really my type. And then he walks out, and I was like, thank God he pulled the escape
Yeah.
maneuver, because at this point it was a Monopoly get out of jail card where that pops
Yeah.
up once in the deck, and you better hold the fuck on to it.
Dude, you're trying to ESPM over like, I'm saving you. Don't you see? I'm
I
saving
was like,
you.
you're
Yeah.
screwing me over.
Yeah, you're really screwing me over and I'm trying to save you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was during a cheerleading convention too. Last week was a cheerleading convention in my town, so it's like a bunch of.
Typical.
Oh my
Typical.
God, dude. You want to talk about bad parenting? That is a bad parenting thing, 100%. There, I saw a 12-year-old girl wearing makeup and like reddest lipstick where I was like, you didn't bother to check her on anything. You just like, yeah, you look fantastic. Good job. Your first try. You managed to
They
get it
walk
on
into
your
the
face.
bar and the mom gets her ID checked and the 8-year-old's like struts right in. I'll take a double.
Yeah,
Dang.
that scares me.
Dude, it's tough. Dude, it's society, bro.
I know
We've
it
talked about
sucks.
this,
It's
dude.
okay.
We've talked about this, dude, where it's like I feel bad. I feel bad to myself. I feel like I do myself a disservice because the amount of thought and distraught I could put on myself by realizing that that's our society and civilization we live in now. I could go for hours on that, but I block myself from that, right? I'm just like, yeah, that's not my world. So I put a block up there. I'm like, I can't focus and think about that very much. Otherwise, it's going to distract me from everything else. But I feel tough. I feel bad about it, and it's tough because, dude, 1920s, these were wise guys, bro. They were like guys that was working their asses off. 1910, turn of the century. We're inventing things. We're all progressive. We're having these big get-togethers where humans are interacting really well.
20s
We're
or
having
30s?
a little bit both. I think we get a border there. We roll into 30s, it gets a little rough. 20s it was rough, obviously, through
Well,
the
yeah, 20s was probably the worst. 30s is when at least you start getting some hope a little bit on that one.
right. And I think people are like, oh shit, like late 20s, early 30s, you're like, all right, these we're not in, we're not in World War II yet. We just made it through this tough shit. Here's where humans are interacting with humans because we don't have anything else to do and we want some light shined in between or after, right? The worst period ever. And it's going to be before World War II. But I feel like those guys, when you'd see those guys on the corner, they'd get in the morning, they'd get dressed up really good, they'd go out and they'd see how they could handle business that day. They would interact with so and point Johnny to Vinny over on block 6 because he's got something else going on. And then you'd have when you would go to a bar and people would walk in and be like, "Hey," right after prohibition or whatever it would be. I wish that for that brief moment we could just pop back because we wouldn't see little girls glammed up, right, to look like they're 30, right, and all done up, and then also we wouldn't be worrying about advertisements all over our face all the time, right? We'd be going to get a Coke at the soda shop because it's enjoyable, not because I was subliminally just pounded with all this
Are
stuff.
you are you just a lot like anti-social media? Have you always been like that, or did that change because you have? Honestly, I don't know how you do it. The amount of exposure that you get just from either TikTok with the amount of followers or Instagram, Facebook, the number of promotional stuff you have to do, whether you're having a team help you or not. I mean, I do it by myself, but I refuse to play the game. Like, that's the reason that this show, I mean, most people would do an episode a week and then promote the hell out of it for that week and shove it in everybody's face. I post it and I ghost. I don't want to ever deal with retweeting it. I've been invited to be a host on another show, and I just politely declined, even though he's got 1 million subscribers on YouTube and everything, because he likes my style. But I'm like, I don't have the effort. I don't have the patience, the mentality to try and do this. Promote here, promote there, post on Instagram, post this, post that, post this, schedule all this stuff. It's like Jamie Kennedy.
It's
You know who
nightmare,
he
bro.
is. You know who Jamie
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy is?
Mhm.
He recently did another podcast, but a long time ago, that guy blacked out of the spotlight. He did The Son of the Mask. He did all these types of movies. And then he's talks about being Bart Simpson dressed up at a birthday party. Like, what the fuck happened to my life? I had a show. I had all this. And he goes, the professional platform is if you're not doing a podcast at 6 a.m., doing a job interview at 7, doing a business deal at 8, making a reservations for a dinner that's going to be happening at 7 p.m. Basically, if you're not doing everything every hour of the day, you're just kind of screwed.
Yeah, that the mentality is like the people that expect you. Thankfully, we're an independent media company now, right? So there's times where like we'll be sitting here and I'm like, all right, y'all, like we're going hiking, right? Or like we're going to do this. Like we're not
Fuck, that
counting
sounds
this out.
awful.
Yeah, it's awful. It sure is. Or like we're going to play bags. We're going to get lunch and play bags indefinitely, cancel whatever it is. So I it definitely is important, especially when you have, the Jamie Kennedy thing, you have responsibilities at that point because you've signed on to stuff. Same thing with our sponsors and things here. I I'm I've never been the max out mentality of just like every minute of every day, all the time, you have to be crushing, right? And you have to be doing something productive because thankfully, I have enough awareness to be like, I, when I'm 60, I would more likely trade any amount of success I have for a moment when I was 30 again, right? So I keep that mentality there going back and forth. But in order for us to do the stuff that you've seen, right? Like be invited to the expo, have the podcast room, um, do all that stuff, we do have to hit our priorities and we do have to make sure that we do our deliverables for whoever we've committed to in the media world and the asphalt world. I'm fortunate enough that people pretty much see us as founders of the media stream within the asphalt industry. The voice, one thing that, like you and I have, a communicative relationship. I do that very intensely still. So all these people that you see come on the podcast, more than likely I've formed some kind of relationship before. And when we go to events, we form relationships with them. We do a lot of calls and a lot of interaction because I don't want it to just be numbers, right? I want it to be experiences and relationships because essentially that's what life's about. So when we do what we do here at Blacktop Banter, we make sure that we enjoy what we do, we develop relationships, and we make sure that we prioritize having good experiences with other people. Because I'm not anti social media, but I'm anti non relationship, if that makes sense.
You're anti I would say corporation or
Yeah,
monoliths.
I think so. I think so because we work in partnership with a lot of companies who like they want to know like I don't know like how many what our percentages is on conversion from this post to whatever followers. I'm like, we don't know, dude. We don't know. We just know how many people watch our shit. Like that's it. And if that's appealing to you, cool. If not, that's cool too. We don't dive in on the analytics. We just do what we like, and we keep doing it. And I think that that's why we have such good success. We don't put a lot of weight on how many followers we have. Of course, we see that the numbers are going up, but that's never been our priority. Our priority has never been attention, right? We just try to do what we do, have fun. If it's cool, we show it because we know that we're going to get an interaction with people, and that's our main thing. Is here what we do is to bring our community together a lot better because they're so far behind that we're losing um, interest in our industry to get new employees and young people interested in it. So we really try to highlight what's really cool. We try to make it cool. We try to make it how do I want to say that?
Do you not think the asphalt industry is phased out or getting phased out? I feel like when they start making autonomous vehicles, they're going to have like a new type of road system that's going to be more electronic.
Yeah, and I think we're catching that wave where we are. That Con Expo was pretty cool, dude. There was a lot of technology, a lot of large technology companies that are getting into the asphalt world. I just made a post yesterday. I shared a post about glow in the dark paint for line striping on roads at night, right? And like totally cool. Like the lights, obviously from traffic, would illuminate it,
They have that in
which
Australia.
helps. Yeah, in Australia, that's where the post was. And then these automated vehicles who are using cameras to find out where they are have a lot less chance of veering or having issues if they can see the lines at night. We're like, oh, totally cool. Well, even if because of that transition to stuff like that, I think that however these autonomous vehicles, even if they come up off the ground, the transition will be from the asphalt industry to guide them because of these larger technology companies coming in. Like some of my best friends in the asphalt industry who have had now extensive careers have never touched a shovel. They never ran a paver, right? They never even smelled asphalt, some of them, but yet they have these extensive careers now within the asphalt industry because they're working with technology companies or whatever going forward, which is totally cool. And for me, just to be somewhat in the hub of that and connecting everything from everywhere is a great experience. Like that's mainly been my goal, is to just try to generate the best experience selfishly for myself in this space. If this is the space that I was going to find myself, I wanted to blossom right here and make it happen. And we've been doing that, but it's I encourage everybody to use social media that I know, right? I'm like, use it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Because if not, if your goal is to have a great relationship based life with multiple experiences that are exceptional, right? You can do that by just hiking up the bluff and sitting and taking in nature, right? But also, this at Con Expo, a few of my friends had a lot of success with a large brand, and they devoted a large time and space attention to them at the largest booth there, and we all celebrated together at this thing, and that was an incredible experience that I wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have connected with these people through social media. So it's a double-edged sword, because if you focus on it in the wrong way a lot, it can be very depressive.
I just don't consider social media a personal thing anymore. It's more business. There's no platform for people anymore. It's platforms for business to grow, and I think that's what's going to eventually turn into is what we were talking about in the beginning, the open kind of market with businesses, which is great. Grow your business that way. That's a fantastic thing to do. But then what are we going to hop on next? And I don't know what that new thing is going to be, because everything new so far has been like some shorter attention span stuff where I'm like, as people, nobody knows how to communicate anymore. There's no conversational banter back and forth between people. When it goes to talking numbers, you just want, I don't care about the content of what information if this person has on a book or something like that. If I can't talk to you, then there's no point in even like when I schedule episodes and stuff, I have to have a conversation. What I invite people I like to talk to and people that I like to have back on.
Bingo.
And, but then some people like one of the guys who probably I'm not going to say his name, but has like the top information that I would love to talk to, tosses out a price like $2,000 for 30 minutes on my show. I'm like, you know what? No thanks.
Right.
What? It's like
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're not going to even consider the aspect of like, yeah, this is someone who's independent and doing something like that. It's just that's the world now. It's all business, and I feel like with social media, it's just going to instill those business properties into people because it's becoming that business platform, and that's really going to suck because you're going to have some polarization between people. You're going to have Silicon Valley types that want shots of wheatgrass, and then you're going to have people that are 100% business mentality, which is fine. But I've come across people where even every second they got to post that they're at a bar at social media. Like, I got to tweet it out to the followers. I'm like, what the fuck does that
Who gives a
mean?
fuck? Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
the followers got to know what I'm doing. I'm like, right now? And they're
That's
like, yeah,
everybody wants to be a social media influencer.
I would
And
love
for
to.
and for what reason though? Yeah. Yeah. It's to go in somewhere and a couple people be like, hey, let me tell you, I do that. It doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't do anything. So I worry about it because we see a lot of people, especially young people, right? Where they emulate who they see on the internet because they think that that's how they should act, and they have an aspiration of being an influencer. Dude, I know a lot of influencers. I'm an influencer. If I wouldn't have stood my ground to not sell myself short, I think I would be like a lot of the influencers I know that are in the construction or yeah, I'd say construction space, where like they literally sell their time, effort, and energy for a weed eater, right? Or like some kind of degreaser. And then they think because they make this post with this degreaser, they have clout now. I'm an influencer now. It's like, I guess so, dude. I guess I could go kick a soccer ball and say I'm a soccer player now, right? It doesn't really work that way. Like if it's if you're going to do business at it, you have to go at it with a business mindset. Um, one of the most discouraging things that I see, and I think we're always going to stick our ground. If we would have turned corporate really hardcore, I think we would have done it by now. Thankfully, we have some companies within the industry that like what we do still, like our style. They don't mind that I decided to tat my whole body up. They don't mind that I say curse words or at events have one too many and make an ass of myself once in a while, just so that everybody has a good laugh and we develop good relationship. But um, I think that the issue is eventually going to be everybody is pre-programmed to influence, right? And to promote. And it's like, we don't really have to do that because people will come up to us right away, especially people who don't know me in a business setting, and somebody will introduce me like, oh, this is Marvin, you know, this good guy, hosts a podcast, connects a lot of people together, does a lot on social media, whatever. And they're like, well, tell us about your podcast and your social media. I'm like, well, you know, I recently had one of my good friends for 20 years who had a great company, and now they've done so well that they're able to buy their dream home, and their family is secure and safe, and they came from really bad place. And then you know, we highlight the industry and make it really cool and interesting for upcoming generations so that they're interested in the asphalt industry. They're like, yeah, but like, how many followers? Like, you know, how many views? Like, you know, who do you guys market? Like, who markets with you? Who sponsors with you? Right? And I'm like, didn't you ask me
God
about my
does.
podcast?
God sponsors with me.
That's right. I'm like, dude.
I'm
So
okay with sponsorships if they're like pretty well done. Like I do like you could do a Squarespace sponsors. Like, do you like blogging shit about your cats? How would you like a website dedicated to the dumb shit nobody else cares about? And we'll just act like people care. Like something like that. If they let me act that free, I always do that. I think I have one sponsor and it's just Spotify, but even that's like, hey, thanks for listening on Spotify. You can go check us out on YouTube. And I name off like all these other platforms. So it's not even really a sponsor, but I would reach out to things I'd actually use. And I don't know, the follower thing to me is like nuts because I have friends that are like, I would say influencers and some big names as well, too. And I'm like, yeah, but if I don't like talking to you, why the hell would I want to talk with you? It doesn't make sense.
No, and to be honest with you, the best guests and most interesting people that I have, I would consider friends, want to come back and want to be part of what we do regularly because we have a great relationship because I'm a genuine actual human being, right? And like, as cool as it is that they're in this position, right, of what other people would be like, whoa, this is awesome, you had them on there. I'm like, yeah, but they're a cool person. Like, they're an actual cool human being, right? I mean, that's why, like, you and I, like we said, it's been a couple of years since I've been on. It's not that we haven't tried. We want to have a conversation, right? We want to talk and catch up and do all this stuff. We both find our conversations very interesting back and forth with the banter that we do. But it's sad, right? I have two children. Um, both both use social media. Um, like, I find it harder to have a genuine conversation asking them about their thought processes and what they're taking in the natural world through their observations of it. Most of the time, my little guy, he just wants to be entertained. Like, he can't sit still. Like, just to sit and think about life, like meditate, forget it, right? My daughter does a little bit, but she consumes quite a bit of content and stuff as well. So I I try to take time to cut that out and be like, hey, we're going hiking. Hey, like today, after we get done here, we're gonna go to a water park overnight. No phones, no nothing. Just hang out, all of us, have conversations, do family stuff. But we also, Eli, my son, he also wrestles, and we'll go to wrestling matches. And I see like all these parents with all these kids, and they have tablet in front of their kid, right? Like, hey, like, we don't want you to act up. Take this tablet. Okay. Boom. It's in front of them. And we're there all day, dude. 10, 12 hours. Like, there's no way. Like, you were talking earlier with the guy with the thing on his hip saying, can you tell us what happened here, mister? Right? Like, for the guy doing the interview, and you're like, dude, he's probably like injecting radiation into his hip. There's, of course, going to be some kind of an implication by having an electromagnetic field around your body, right? Here these kids are with their brain development stages with this in front, not only the electromagnetic field, but also whatever they're whatever is influencing them at that point. That's why I was talking about the 1930s when people was playing stickball in the street, or here where I live, kids were out farming, learning about animals, learning about hard work, learning about family, interacting, right? Problem solving in the natural world. Bro, there's an app to fix everything nowadays.
There's just I see that happening like my nephews. My nephews are very disconnected from any technology. They don't really watch TV. They're not allowed to. They're still very young. I think the oldest is 4. And or they're about to have another one too. So I'm about to be an uncle of 3. And it's like I asked him, I was like, what the older one, Ollie? I said, Ollie, what's your favorite food? And he was like, apple. I was like, that's a snack. What's your favorite food? And then my mom kind of looks over to me and goes, his mom doesn't let him have any junk food. And I just go, in my head, I go, what do you mean junk food? She's like, only healthy snacks. I'm like, Ollie, have you ever had pizza? What's pizza? I go, what? Ollie, you ever had a cheeseburger? What?
No.
Ollie, you ever had taquitos? What's taquitos? I go,
You ever had cheeseburger pizza with
me and his
taquitos on
dad used to smoke 4 bowls and eat a whole pack of taquitos. What are we talking about here? So I messaged him and he got so mad. And he was like, look, man,
it?
I don't make the rules. It's, her. She makes the rules. And I'm like, look, man, we used to tear up a whole box of taquitos, stoned off our ass, go to Walgreens to get 99-cent teas, get a thing of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and then go sit on a pier and talk about life and shit. Like, your kid needs some experiences. He's 4. Like, I'm not saying he needs to smoke a bowl, but for the God's sakes, like, introduce him
Yeah,
to a
they're
grilled cheese.
protecting him. They're protecting him,
Well, my
right?
issue is like I live in the fitness world. I haven't eat out at a restaurant in a very severely long time. I think the most recent was I had a burger on my birthday at Outback, which was like the place I wanted to go because I went there all the time as a kid. And my everyone's like, you can go anywhere. We'll go to Sakura. We'll go to anything. We'll pay whatever you want. It's your birthday. And I'm just like, it's New Year's Eve. There's nowhere we're going to be able to really go anywhere to enjoy anything. So I was like, let's go to Outback and I just want a burger. I ate the burger in 10 seconds, basically. I've devoured, I haven't had red meat in forever. But that's the first time in like 8 years, 9 years, I've limited myself to no fast food. Everything's healthy kick. If I eat a French fry, I got to do 5 hours of cardio to be able to burn off that French fry. It's this type of stuff where I go, when you build up walls, sometimes you solidify certain parts of life where any bodybuilder can tell you they've missed out on moments and things because of the fitness addiction. And that's like that with anything. Well, social media addiction, you miss out on life because you want to spend more time in your device. You know what I do when I get off work? I go immediately when it was warm out. It's past couple weeks, it's been shit. But I go, there's a tree in my backyard. I go put some headphones on. No emailing for podcasts. I'm not doing any booking stuff, which in the beginning, when I was doing it every day, I was booking. With the weekends off, I can just post 5 a week. That's not bad. I can easily do 5 in a day. But I would just sit in the backyard, put headphones in, listen to 311, a little bit of whiskey under a tree. Thank God I remembered to wear sunglasses because when you pass out in the backyard staring at the sun, when you wake up, my vision was bleach white. I was like, oh God, what the hell do I do? Like, it's one of those moments where, we get your finger stuck in the Chinese finger bindings and you can't get them out. You're like, is this going to last forever? So I thought I permanently messed up my vision.
Yeah, you panic. You
Yeah.
panic.
Oh, I panicked
Oh
hard.
no.
I
Oh
was in the
no.
shower,
Yeah.
like, oh God, trying to flush my eyes out. Vision came back. The color came back. Reds I don't see too well. So
Yeah. So you've been off red meat primarily?
my food is mostly like salads and stuff, but protein shakes. I mean, I went for shakes for years without really having any actual food in
I've been
me.
on protein shakes a lot lately, dude. Like as I'm
Those
still trying to cut down.
those farts are amazing.
Yeah, dude, your belly does weird stuff, dude. Like I was gonna ask you about that when you mentioned the French fry. When I go back to anything, like it's been months now, dude. It's been a lot of months, probably June or so. I tried to have like a chicken wing the other day and it was fried. And my gut was like, no, no, no. We don't do that anymore. Like that wasn't food you were giving us to begin with. Let's remind you that this still isn't food. But if I eat a chicken breast, I'm good. But it's the oils and the unnatural shit that just my gut's like, no, dude. And I have a feeling like if I would have been raised in a way where I wasn't eating Hostess fruit pies ramen noodles, fried pork chops, and chicken nuggets all the time, maybe my gut already would have been like that, right? I would have hit 20 and would have had my first piece of pizza in my stomach, been like, this isn't food. Like we don't want this. But because I had been obviously we could go down a huge rabbit hole talking about the food industry, but like I think that whatever feels unnatural is probably unnatural, right? And now that we're just out of curiosity, when you're like, yeah, I don't eat red meat anymore. I eat really clean. The protein shakes I've been on quite a bit because I could easily eat red meat every day, like piles of it. My body loves it. I love it. White meat I can do once in a while. I don't do pork anymore at all. My body's like, nope, we're not doing this anymore, which is kind of ironic because everybody's supposed to love bacon, I think, but it won't. But yeah, so I get curious about that, and then I think about that in relativity, right, to our minds, which is part of our body, right, and our spirit, which I hope is part not necessarily of our body, but we're in here. What if we were to do that with social media, Robbie? What if we were to do that with whatever and take it out, and then when you put it back in, you'd be like, "Oh, this isn't. I don't like this." Right? I think about that in a sense. So
I mean, I post on my social media only on my personal story in the hopes that the girl I want to get laid with sees it. So
yeah, I mean,
about it.
and that's hope. Everybody has to have hope,
I'm having a
right? And
little
you,
bit. It's
yeah,
fucking it's hanging there.
and then you get to save face and be like, "Well, I'm not doing nothing. I'm
Well, the
doing
whole
something."
rubbing my
That's
hands on my face
right.
type pickup line didn't work out too well, so I got to recover from that right now.
That's right. That's right. Let me get, dude. You've been at the gym, dude. You've been looking really good. I'd start posting those a little bit and being like, ah, right to the story. There we
I
go.
just have
There we go.
big
Yeah,
fucking hands.
yeah, dude. You were showing me your wingspan earlier. Like, dude, you got Da Vinci style wingsuit. I think you'd have been the guy to fly.
I'm hoping for a damn growth spurt because this shit's getting ridiculous. I can
Just
palm a
in the core
basketball,
area. Yeah,
and
just in
people
the
can't do
core
that.
area. Yeah, yeah. Not my arms, not anything
I
else.
know. Like
Yeah,
you
dude.
like long arms? You into giraffes? Well then, here's my phone number. Just slide it over there.
Yeah, dude. It's
Do you
getting
feel like you're
wild.
running at 100% though? Do you feel like you're running at 100?
No, 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 no. Especially now that my diet, I've been in calorie deficit for, I've been for sure in a calorie deficit nonstop for 5, 6 months probably. So I never feel like I'm at 100%. What has happened though is that as my diet has changed, I realize that I get more sustained energy. I sleep better, but I want to sleep more, and I don't ever feel like I did keto a couple years ago, and I felt like my brain was the sharpest it had ever been during those times. And I feel like I'm elevated now with the diet that I'm on right now, but I don't ever feel like I'm at 100%. And I worry about that because I'm 37 this year. I'm worrying if that's part of the aging process. But then I see guys that are like 50 that I know personally that have tons of energy. They're doing everything they want to do every day. They're feeling fantastic. So I'm guessing it's just some more tweaks, especially as I get down in weight. But um, yeah, I think it's all a learning process of it. What about you? Do you feel like you're optimal?
Nah, I'd probably say I'm running at 25% most of the time.
Dude,
It's
imagine what
definitely
you could do.
the no sleep shit is definitely. I'm not worried about the physical stuff as much because that I work on and that'll never change. But the mental stuff, I've noticed not that I become irritable, but I've just started to not care more, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But I kind of treat everything like the simulation a little bit. Like
Do you think
sometimes
that
I'm
it's
just
do you think before you go too far, do you think it's that you don't care more or that you care about certain things a lot more that make you in it, because it'd be not care more means that you did this, but to care about certain things more means that it went this way. Do you think that it's a few things that you care about a lot more
I think I've
versus
just
trying to
cared
care
about
about everything?
a lot less of
So
everything.
other stuff a lot less. Okay.
Yeah, so like I always stick by the same moral values where I always just be real with it. You only care about the people that you care about. Like it's very easy to understand that. Like people always try and put their influence into like you shouldn't treat your kids like that or you shouldn't do this. And I'm like, they're gonna do exactly what they're gonna do, and you're not gonna say anything that's gonna be able to change them. What you can make sure is that you're not like obviously when it comes to abuse, that's wrong. So you can call CPS and all that and handle that. But I mean, if it's holding your kid's hand if you're not letting your kid say a curse word. I was like, their parents are going to raise them however they want. All you're doing is creating suppression out of those aspects of things. But what you can do is make sure you don't do the same exact thing and you teach it how you want to. Like, I'm big into not influencing other people's lives. Like, whatever I say, I always just tell people, like, any advice you get or any advice I give, I rarely give it, but you can fucking throw it out if you want. I don't care. But,
Yeah, either they take it or they don't.
it's the not caring for me. Like, I've podcast wise, like usually I would try and make sure I was always having a guest or do this. If I don't have a guest, it's like it's a fucking free day. I'm gonna paint my ass off and just do something where trying to find balance and normalcy in a sense. And
Do
I,
you
I
enjoy it more? Do you
what
enjoy
painting?
it more? Like not caring about it so much? Do you enjoy it more?
I find that I get less tense about stuff once you start. Like, I always live by the deep state mentality, and people go, "Oh my God, you think a bunch of people in cloaks?" I'm like, I'm sure there is probably some of that going on. But learning more about history, I've started to realize that we're stuck in a system that has been ingrained for the longest time. To when you get inside the circle, it just makes those people more rich, and it's just capitalism. But I've kind of noticed it a little bit more. That's why I've been diving down the whole history rabbit hole. It's so much easier to talk about past events than it's easier to talk about things that are happening currently because everything gets divided into politics. You're just like, all I asked was, do you want more beef on your Chipotle burrito? And the person's like, well, you know what? I thought you were assuming I was a Trumper because I wanted more beef. And I was like, I'll fucking say paste. Would you say Biden? And they're like, are you saying Biden's a better choice? And I'm like, is it a win-win with you? Is it a lose-lose? Because I'm gonna snap your neck. And they're like, look,
They're like,
I'm just
why does it
trying
got
to
to
do
be a
my job.
win-win? Why can't it be a win-lose?
I know
Yeah, why
it's
can't it
just
be a win-lose? Yeah, we were in a meeting yesterday here, and it was our creator meeting, and we were talking about holding an event here with our creators and stuff, and bringing a lot of people in as a free event for all of our fans, any people that wanted to come out and do whatever. And I was trying to explain what the population and culture is like here in this town where we want to have this event. And I found myself like not wanting to say describing words because I was like, I might offend somebody. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, I wanted to say hippie, right? And I wanted to say liberal, and I wanted to say like
that's an
artsy,
offensive word,
right?
liberal.
Well, that's what I was saying. So then Chris, who's here, like, he's like, dude, why did you fumble that and make that weird? I was like, I didn't know, like, I didn't know what I should or shouldn't say. And normally I don't care, but he's like, well, they're like liberal. I'm like, yeah, but if you call somebody a liberal, they're gonna be like, why you call me a liberal? What's with the label? And I'm like, and I do that. Like, I'm not liberal or conservative, I don't think. But when people call me conservative, sometimes I'm like, well, I guess so. I guess I got conservative views. I also have liberal views. Like, I don't really care what you call me. Like, it doesn't really matter. But to some people, it does. And I found myself like trapped in this rabbit hole of like, if I call somebody artsy, are they going to get offended because I didn't call them creative? You know what I mean? So I'm like, this
Damn,
is just about,
society's fucked if that's the
dude, it
truth.
is, bro. It is. And so what I ended up saying was there's a lot of people that wear flannels, skinny jeans with the bottoms rolled up, and leather shoes.
It's a bold fucking statement.
Well, it was a describing a wardrobe, which I thought was okay. And I figured that they could reach their own conclusion
In
if I
what
just,
world is that okay?
I don't know. But I know that describing a wardrobe is okay.
I'd have to look at what that person looks
Then
like.
they can come to their own conclusions.
I don't know, flannel rolled up. Why do you roll the pants up?
I don't know why, dude.
Because
Or
they're too
especially where we
long?
are.
Did he not get a good fit?
I think that maybe if it was here, if it originated here, it's probably because it didn't get in manure. But to be honest with you, the smell of manure gets into everything anyways. So I don't really think that it really mattered all that much. But
I end up pissing somebody off, so at this point, I just stopped trying to web
dance.
around it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't dance
I
around it.
usually say something where people go like, "What do you mean by that?" I'm like, "What do you they're like? Do you mean it like this?" I'm like, "No. What do you mean? What? Why?" And they're like, "Well, you said this word," and I'm like, "All right, at this point, you know what?" I'm like, "I think you can't tell through converse." That's the problem of not having enough conversations with people. You start to lose what the meaning of what people are saying with, and you assume that it goes like another experience you might have had that went in a direction with the same wording, and then they immediately start jump. Like it's like get a text from somebody, go to the store, can be like, go to the store. Or it could be go to the store. And then it's like those two things is already a disconnect. So then you can't, it's just like that with actual social interactions now, where I'm like, more people need to try public speaking. You shouldn't have an anxiety attack. I mean, everyone's afraid of public speaking, but if you're a cash working in a service job, there's a number of people that don't give a shit about working there anymore because they'll just go find another job. And everyone says, well, the market's on a decline. And I'm like, well, look, kids don't care anymore. Nobody does. The online platform has changed everything to where your business is sensitive. And that's like one of the most dangerous things, where I'm like, what about the Denny's employees? What about those people? The Uber drivers. I did Uber for a brief time during the pandemic. It was a hell of a time. I love delivering Denny's Grand Slams to people. And then some of the best interactions I've ever had. You knock on a door in my town, someone opens up, it's like a hot girl. And you're just like,
And you save the day with Denny's.
she's like, oh my God, you brought us pizza. Thank you so much. And I'm like,
Yeah, I did. It's my job, but I did.
to be honest, I hit that turn pretty quick, and it's probably fucked up. Here you go. Just hand it to
Yeah, dude, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about like the way that social interaction on the internet is now, because people wouldn't even ask you what you mean by saying that if they weren't already predisposed to trying to figure out what people were saying through a text, because there's no enunciation, there's no describing, there's no background, there's no context, right? So then they're like, what do they mean by that? So that's already a natural inclination when you're like that person that asked you, like, what do you mean by that? Like, I didn't mean anything. I was trying to keep this conversation going. Like, it was really a non-subject. Like, something triggers in their brain where they've seen it or been predisposed to it, and then they ask you that question about it. So I think it's like we were talking about the Joker movie. I always think, why so serious? Dude, why are we so serious about all this stuff? We're so serious about worrying about what somebody meant when they said something, but yet there's legit human problems, like legit people suffering, like right now. About, I really doubt they would give a shit about whether or not what I said offended them, right, one way or another, because they have real problems that they're trying to work out right now that are
I-
life-threatening problems
I'm
or
just not a
issues.
I'm a big I wouldn't say a realist, but the way that my mind kind of works is like I'm not into the hypocrisy of things. Like everybody that complains about billionaire tech companies, and not saying us, I'm just saying people that complain about just billionaires that should be donating their money to charity. I was like, you would not do the same fucking thing if you were in that person's position. Nobody would. The owner of McDonald's didn't want to make people fat, but he was worried about how is he going to make money for his family and keep a legacy going. And it's like, even with like content creation, if you make $60 every 2 days compared to a job where you get paid $400 a week, how long until that $60 becomes $200 every 2 days? And now you don't have to work while this thing is supplying your career for you, or your path for you. Are you worried about your life being easy, or are you worried about what that you're going to leave behind for the people that are going to be your kin or your family? And to me, that's more for me. I'm more worried about, I don't give a shit if I have to struggle, but I would be more happier if I could understand that my family would be better guaranteed a position. And I think that's how billionaires work. They want to get money for themselves, and you've seen plenty of billionaires blow their money off as well too, and doing dumb shit all the time. But they also are just worried about their circle. What are they going to leave behind? And then people go, well, McDonald's made people fat and we have obesity rates. And I was like, yeah, but they're also just a business. Like, we got to take out the personal mentality with the corporate mentality. If you start viewing the world as a corporate mentality, things start making a hell of a lot more sense. That's why I view history as everything in history, the government and stuff like that. There's a lot of dark stuff in there, but I just view it as like, it's just people in positions of power that don't really care about your personal feelings and how you feel about things. China doesn't view wokeology the way we view wokeology, and it's a big problem for us over here. And I was like, look, you can care about things and express yourself however the hell you want. I don't care. But when it comes to the end goal and you're mad that there might be two levels or that might be a disparity, well, look what that person put on their focus and look what you tried to do. And sadly, caring about people is not at the forefront of things. I wish it was. But I think if you go to enough Royal Farms or gas stations at 3 o'clock in the morning and come across someone who's on crystal meth asking, hey, man, let me borrow your car. I'm like, what? Let me borrow your car. For what? Just let me borrow it. How long? I don't know. All right, you come back with a time and I'll let you borrow my car, and I get in my car and drive off. Every morning I deal with something like that. I don't know what else do I do? Do I sit there and listen to the person's story and the situation and the life they get in there? If I have the time, probably. But it's not how it works. You get in your car, you drive off, and most people now are afraid of such an interaction, like you were mentioning about walking up to someone with like a selfie stick back in the beginning. There's people that would just think this person wants to sell me something, this person wants to do something, this person wants something out of me, so I just got to keep my mouth shut and keep walking, don't make eye contact. And that's the world we live in now. It's where that is only going to keep on going when you get down to a point of like we just can't do obvious human interactions. There's people that are going to have asshole moments. All people are good and bad. So you have to kind of balance it out with nobody's 100% one thing, but it's also about, are you going to be the person that wants to take the time and consideration and patience to be able to understand? Or does society feel like it's pressuring you to get as much done as you possibly can in the minutes that you have and wasting any minute on a person that you feel like you're never going to connect with? That's the thing. It's like I do the most risky business transaction, conversation, but all I'm asking is for probably the most precious thing to you, which is your time. And people don't view it as precious. They view that as, well, how much? How much? How much this? It's like, I'm not doing that whole game. I'm giving you my time. Let's have the transactional deal. And that's, I mean, that's not anything wise about me or anything. I think everyone can do that. It's just about a lot of people aren't really focused in that direction. And I think that only comes with understanding like the hopelessness I have in just life in general, not in my life, but just in the world system that everything's going. I was like, we have some really big issues we could probably get down with and be able to handle, but everything gets pushed on. And the next thing you know, you're 6 generations in on the Kennedy assassination. Nobody's got a goddamn document out yet. Sorry, that pisses me off like to a point of no return.
All right, let me see which fork I want to go down here because
I gave
you've
you an olive branch of like a
you did
thousand.
you proposed one that either leads one way or I circle us back and go the other way. Um, I think that the commodity that you're talking about in time, you know, the what did you say? The deal, right, between two people of, hey, I'm asking for your time. I understand it's your precious commodity, whatever. I think whatever your revelations are about life, whether you've done introspective thinking, look for enlightenment in that regard. I could do like right now, I could be doing a business interaction, right? I could have did something, created content or did whatever. But to me, spending
Sell
time
me a
with you,
condo. Sell me a condo in Tahiti. I only want to be there 2 days out of the year, though.
it's a timeshare. So it costs less, right? No. Um,
Deal.
and you
Myrtle
can pass
Beach,
it on
here I
to the
come.
next generation.
I
Yeah.
don't know
I
why they
think
always have timeshares in Myrtle Beach. It's a fucking though. I thought the ocean was deeper over there. It's not. It's like a sandbar for a good 4 miles. So I run in headfirst into the ocean, do a dive, cracked my hands right on the bottom of the beach, and pop up. I'm like, oh! And my dad's like, yeah, I probably should have told you. It's about waist high all the way for like 2 miles out. I'm like, well, thanks, man.
yeah. Yeah, and it's cold as shit and
And then
dirty.
try eating Chinese food with chopsticks when your hands are all look like Doctor Strange after the car accident.
I remember that.
Okay. It's a movie,
You
so I'm
just
not making fun of anybody.
no, you just wind time back, and his hands aren't like that, right? Just open the portal. There we
God,
go.
if I had that superpower, dude, I would rewind it back to, I would say the mobster days, 100%. I got to know what they were like.
Yeah, I think it's basic human interaction. But before I get too far gone, I think that if you have that enlightenment and that processes that we were talking about, that you actually realize that this type of thing, this conversation that we're having now, is actually more fulfilling and more rewarding than the actual business interaction that I could be having that isn't going to have any bearing on whether or not I enjoy my life anymore. I don't think, right? The value of another business interaction or another content creation piece isn't going to improve my day like this conversation that you and I are having with two humans interacting, talking about different things, dissecting different things, going down different paths, laughing, doing all that stuff. It I know it's ironic because we run this business in social media space, right? but I don't interact as much on there. Essentially, we do the post and forget it. If somebody tags us or has a question, we'll answer that question, do that type of stuff. But I don't necessarily live there. I did early on when it was new, because it was like a new bastion. It was like a frontier. But once you got like to the Oregon Trail and you got to the end and you've seen everything, you're like, well, I kind of want to go back and just hang out at my favorite spots. Right. That's essentially what, for me, that's what's going on. And that actually happens to be actual human interaction, creating moments and time that I enjoy, that I can look back on fondly. I'm not going to look back at a meeting with a client here and look back, that's a business deal of how are we going to promote their product on Blacktop Banter. I'm not going to look back on that when I'm 60, 70 years old and have a great fond memory of it that stuck out in my brain. It's not going to happen. So therefore we prioritize now, or we should, human beings like yourself and myself, hanging out by the tree, putting some 311 in my ears, having a whiskey, and enjoying being a human being. Same thing as this right here. We're enjoying being human beings. I don't necessarily know that when you're on a yacht on the Gulf with Dom Perignon and you have to take a picture of it because you want to show that to somebody, that you're necessarily actually enjoying being a human being, right? You're just enjoying what humans can do. And that's different. That's different than actual enjoying being a human being. So that's what I try to keep my pulse on. Like you were talking about how you prioritize things and keep your pulse there. That's what I try to do as well here going forward. And as important and as cool as it is of everything that we're doing here and the great moments that we're having and whatnot, make no mistake about it. There's days where I'm like, this doesn't mean anything. Like this full day that we did doing stuff that never has happened before in my industry down this path, it didn't really mean as much, because I've had other memories and other instances and other conversations that I would gladly trade this for immediately to relive again. And that every time it's been either me being introspective and finding enlightenment alone, or it's been when I've been with another human being or multiple human beings and we were just really enjoying being human beings together in some sense, versus doing what human beings can do, right? We all went to whatever, dude, I don't know. We rode roller coasters together, right? Or we were on a yacht, or we went to the top of the Sears Tower, or did whatever. Those are all cool things that your body can go and that you can see. But for some reason, for me, human interaction and connecting and feeling like my purpose of being a human being that connects other human beings in a way where they can have fruitful relationships seems to be the most rewarding thing I do amongst anything, right? And you were talking about children earlier. There's times when, like, I've had Eli with me and my daughter Elizabeth. I've had them together and separately during different moments and different things, and I'll watch them interact in different ways and different things. And like you're saying, they're going to be their own human beings. Of course, they're going to have some knowledge and influence by me being around them, but I'm never like doing this and holding, like, because I feel like if I did that and was like, you don't get any interaction on social media, you don't ever get to eat any junk food, you don't ever get to do any of that, I'm shortcoming what their experiences could be. I could be keeping them from those experiences that I'm treasuring in my own personal path by doing that. But at the same time, if I will only let them eat junk food, if I only let them be on social media or Xbox or PlayStation or whatever all the time, then I would be keeping them from what the possibility is of these great experiences on this side of the fence, of eating great health food, of unplugging, of going out in the nature, of being around human beings and having interaction and discussion. So all I can do is create an atmosphere where all those opportunities are there. And that's essentially what I try to do for myself and everybody here too, as well, is just to try to create the best human experience that we can create using what knowledge we've gained and what we know, whether it's the history, which you point to quite a bit, or whether it's looking to the future quite a bit. I think that those are the only two. I think that's the only path, dude, to really enjoy the ride we're on. And you use your emotional navigation point, right? With you being like, dude, when I did podcasts every day and was scheduling all the time, it sucked. Versus now, I don't put as much importance on it, so there's less tension there, which essentially makes me enjoy it somewhat more. It's kind of what you got to do. And if you can get away from thinking that you have to be this hugely financial, successful, famous, whatever or another in order to enjoy your life or feel accomplished, you're 80% of the way there to living a happy life, I think. I don't know for sure. I can't never say for sure. I never say anything for sure nowadays because a new document might come out
Hmm.
and I could and prove that I'm totally wrong about that and that I think that way because I ate Maruchan ramen beef that was laced with whatever at some point
I,
because they knew that impoverished children would eat that. I guess I don't know.
um, what else is such a specific example that you just pointed out there in that little end part. Uh,
See that you're not the only one that can do it. I can do it. So now you
oh
have a fork. You
God,
pick which path. Now you have
it
a fork.
catches me off guard. I mean, would you can like I consider it probably more I'm down an educational route where I've probably had more of an interest in trying to find new things and at least learn more. But I like my time in isolation. But also, I passed up some big, big A hitters that I will not name on this show because I preferred, because the day that they wanted to book was on a day that I had plans to go eat 3 bushels of crabs with my buddy and tear up some beers. And I did. I ate 2 bushels by myself. That's a lot. And they're jumbos. Not yeah. I did not feel good afterwards, but it was fantastic during it because you're getting drunk, and then my buddy goes, "This is the time I could tell you about this, or I can ask you about this, but tell me about the Kennedy assassination." And I just go, "Woo!" And I just start jumping into it, and then it's like spitting off so much stuff I don't even know what I'm really talking about. And then we end up watching like a couple documentaries or do something like this, but it's just sitting and bullshitting. And I'm like, that's what you need in your life. You should teach your kids to, cherish those things, but don't let it consume your whole life. If you're getting drunk every single day and the next thing you know, you're 50 years old and you're upset about where your life went because you've just been partying nonstop without doing anything for yourself, you don't want that because you also don't want your kids to struggle. So it's like a two-handed sword type deal here. But it's also a mentality of like, you need to also understand that you're going to come across many different things. And at one point, podcasting was my whole life to now I might be going down the documentary route. I want to go to the Florida Villages. I can't believe nobody's ever talked about the Florida Villages before. It's a retirement community filled with old swingers. How do you not want to interview some of these people? And my cousin's parents live there. They're not
I'm going to
swingers.
be honest with you. I don't want to interview those people.
I do. I'm going to make my next documentary about them.
Well, that's why they're all different kinds of good. I can't wait. I'll watch it.
All I'm saying is
I'm not
we're
going to
on the
interview
golf
them.
course. Everyone pops Viagra, and then it's a slow Beach Boys music playing in the background, and we're all hitting tees with giant, you know, mild,
I
average.
think maybe that's what the heart attack gun was
But it
just
was
Viagra.
Viagra, yeah. Pump
Yeah.
it up, pump it. Too
Yeah.
much of that can give you a
Oh,
heart attack. It
no
has
shit.
became the black market capital for Viagra, the Florida Villages, and also the
Oh, I
pickleball
bet.
capital too, which is very interesting because I
That
still.
crosses over into my industry. Pickleball courts are a big deal, dude. Guys that
Do
can perform and
can you
produce
explain to
those.
me what that game is? Because I don't know what it is.
It's like kind of like ping pong but bigger, but not as big as tennis. All right, it's kind of in between. Like, hey, ping pong's for kids. Pickleball's for people that can't play full size tennis. And you can kind of essentially that's it. That's my rundown of it. That's it. That's all the
Is
description.
tennis a big commodity? I feel like that's like I work with at my gym. I work with a woman who was a professional women's basketball player, and she's been like all around the world. And I was like, "But you work at a gym?" And she's like, "You know how much women get paid to play basketball?" And I go, "Oh, that's so fucked." And I was she's like, "Do you
Yeah.
want to watch women's basketball?" I was like, "To be honest, I don't want to watch fucking any sports." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "I don't know. Unless I'm seeing somebody's arm break or someone shit themselves, I don't really want to watch it." She's like, "What's
You
wrong
can
with you?" And I was like, "I don't
that's
know."
why ESPN, that's why Sports Center is so cool, right? Because it
The
can you
best
watch
hits
all,
ever. You get to see a
yeah.
dude basically get paralyzed on the field, and you're
Oh
like, "Watch, they're gonna
no.
give him smelling salts in the back, and he's gonna be up and running."
Yep. Yeah, dude. I don't know that tennis is a huge commodity either. It's kind of like I think it's kind of now in the realm of like polo or rugby or
Croquet.
croquet. Yeah, I think it's in that realm now, right? And maybe it's just because it's like there's not like Andre Agassi, right? There's not like wild people there anymore. You know what
John
I mean?
McEnroe.
John McEnroe, even the Williams sisters, like, I don't really think so. Yeah. But yeah, so, and here's the other thing, it takes up a lot of space and it's an exhausting sport if you're going to play it. And you either play with one other person, you need somebody else to play, right? So I think that they're just like, they're going by the wayside. Most of the time, like, I can't believe we're talking about pavement stuff, but most of the time nowadays you'll see tennis courts, they can hold 2 pickleball courts or 4, depending on what it is, and you'll
What the
see a lot of conversion.
fuck is pickleball? I gotta see it done.
I told you it's small tennis.
There's a guy at my gym who's like, I'm like the world champion in this area on pickleball, and I'm like, the fact that you
I'm the
consider that a
world champion in
brag,
this area.
congratulations, man. I know.
I'm the local world champion.
I'm just
Yeah,
like, I
yeah, yeah.
don't get it. Sorry, that's
Yeah.
the last thing I want to do. I think
You can
even
hit against a wall. See, that's the thing. You can play against yourself. If you wanted to, you could build half a pickleball court and put it up. It's kind of like racquetball. You could play against a wall if you wanted to. So there's racquetball, pickleball, all these other kind
I
of things.
saw a kid in a lacrosse game get a lacrosse ball thrown 100 miles an hour, I think, and it went right into his throat.
Oh
And the kid
shit.
had to relearn how to talk. So anything with a little ball that moves super, super quick, I'm like, nah. Even like if I was in Hogwarts and they were having the Quidditch game and there's that little snitch that just runs over, I'm like, nah, just gonna let it
Yeah.
go. But that's your
Yeah, that's
job.
we played pong when we were at I took the kids to Chicago, I think, and we were playing pong in the basement of some arcade and we were playing on level 1. So it's going boop, boop, boop. So the game could have went forever. You crank that dial up and it starts going boop, 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 boop. That's about the only game I think I'm going to play where the ball is moving insanely fast. Because the worst you're going to get is maybe a tweaked wrist or something like that when you're playing pong,
Or you
twisting the knob
stroke
around.
out mid game because the ball's moving so quick you have a seizure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're shaking around your head in the dome. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. And that's the thing. Like, it was a totally cool pong setup for me in my mind. Which I'll play Fortnite with the kid, dude. We play FIFA, like whatever. I'll play video games still today. Big time video gamer from way back. But we were sitting at the pong table, and I'm like, dude, check it, boo, boo, and we were going whatever, and like he won probably half the games. We played like I don't know 5 or 6 games, and he's like, I don't want to play this anymore. Like what? Like, yo, I thought we were having a great time. He's like, nah, this isn't that cool, really. I'm like, oh, okay. So what entertained and was mind-boggling to 10 to 12-year-olds in 1980 contains zero interest from 10 to 12-year-olds 30 years later, 40
Because they've
years
been
later.
exposed to too much stuff. It's like if you went from a budget of $10,000 to $5, it's the same way from $5 to $10,000. You're going to be upset or happy, depending if you're going up and down. And that's like for me, like budgeting and stuff like that. Like I'm not broke at all. Um, I just save up all my money, but it's very hard because I live in the no eating out type deal and all that. There you end up just restricting all like the cool fun stuff, which fun stuff is kind of spending money, treating yourself. But I've got this mentality now where it's like you can't spend anything. I should probably put money that I'm making from whatever into the show or doing something. But I don't do that because I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because I don't trust any of the damn things. Or your audience reach is going to be 350,000. Who? Who? Bots? Is that what it is? Because the numbers ain't going up.
Yes, yes, yeah. So I'd much rather just hang on and do what I'm doing right at this pace. What I kind of like relate Eli not wanting to play Pong to is like us going to watch black and white movies where like you could, but you really don't prefer it over a regular movie. And then people who watched silent movies that then had movies with audio, there's a reason why they don't go back and watch silent movies. Like everybody might know what silent movies were or who's the guy with the mustache? Why is it
Charlie Chaplin.
yes, you know who Charlie Chaplin is, but they don't want to go back and watch it. They just know the fact that, hey, Charlie Chaplin was the guy when it comes to silent movies. Same thing with Pong, right? Or Cubert, where the kids are like, yeah, it all started with Pong and Cubert. You want to play it? No. Like it just it's become a fact of history, right? So,
I mean, I go back and watch the old Naked Gun movies because I fucking love O.J. Simpson. Um,
well, that's kind of like with the 80s movies. I love going and watching them. Oh yeah, man. Like this storyline, you could tell he was loved. We have all this feathered hair, like Kevin Costner had badass hair back then. And then we go and like we watched like we wouldn't watch we love watching the superhero movies, but we love watching them because it's nonstop. Right? It's like nonstop. And you're to go back to like watch Dances with Wolves with the kids, like you would think that I had them in a water torture and the drop was hitting their head, dude. And they're like, please, please stop this nightmare. Right. And I'm like, I
I
don't
would
get it.
I would still watch The Big Lebowski. It's still my all-time favorite movie over the new Creed movie. That movie, Lou. I'm sorry if you.
Creed 3.
Oh God,
Bad.
it was not what I thought it was going to be at all. It's
No.
way more
I
drama
mean,
than it was anything. I was happy I went with like a couple friends from work, so we all work at a gym, and I'm watching the movie, and someone goes over, and goes, you notice how jacked he is? I was like, oh my God, I thought I was like the only one thinking it. And he was like, no, dude, they got him ripped for this movie. And he's like a personal trainer. So he's like, that takes a lot of fucking work to get there. And I was like, I know. And I was like, so we started talking about like how jacked they were. And I was like, okay, so now it's like you're connecting on the fact that I'm glad I wasn't the only person fucking noticing that. Cause I thought like this is something you got to bury down deep inside of you and never bring it out at anything, you know? But
if
no,
you look at the
seriously.
difference, look at the difference from Creed to Creed 3.
Well, I
He
started
put mass on.
the
Like,
guy, the enemy guy that he had who plays Kane and Ant-Man, I realized
mhm.
that's why he was wearing his big padded gear as the main villain dude in Ant-Man because they were covering up all how jacked he was getting for that role. But then he just had a recent scandal, apparently was
Oh,
assaulting his
shit.
girlfriend, and I was like, damn it. Why can't you everyone just like
Roids.
be real cool? Back in the old school days of Hollywood, they used to cover up your scandals for you. The government would the government FBI would pick certain individuals who would be used for, and this is like the day we're talking, there's an episode that's all about this. But there's government officials would pay certain individuals who had a clean background, no drinking, no homosexuality, because back then in the 70s and 60s, it was like none of that type of stuff. Um, and they would make sure that every time that you were portrayed as an FBI agent on screen, that any scandals, any drinking, any of that stuff would just be hidden away. They had covered scandals of a guy who basically beat the crap out of a female actress and covered it up. Hollywood covered it up. There was a deal between the FBI and Hollywood, and then there was also a deal between Hollywood and the mobsters. So that's like really interesting. I mean, it brings up the Black Dahlia case about a girl that was found mutilated in a park because she wanted to be an actress. And then the whole Hollywood climate has not just been a problem like it is today, but it's been way worse. Paramount Studios, or yeah, Paramount Studios owned every single movie theater basically, and Hollywood had a relationship. They were just the same company. So basically, whenever they wanted to keep their movie in stock and play whatever they made, they can just keep it in the theaters. It's a giant monopoly. And then somebody, I think in the 70s or something or 80s, went through and was like, separate this. This is not happening anymore because he had to separate the two. Can you hear
Why
me?
though? Yeah,
Okay.
why though? Is what is the thing. Why not just the natural order of things?
Are you playing Pong? I hear Pong noises.
No, there's
Okay.
nothing going on.
I'm about to say, I hear something. It sounds like Pong. I'm like, this guy started playing Pong. He started talking about it so much. He had to ramp it up on there.
No, well, I was thinking about the so we have a tab here, and I try to bring up everything that I don't know about in the midst of it because sometimes I do know about it, but I don't know about it. So when it came to Black Dahlia, which of course I know of, I try to think about and look up like these scenarios, right? But I wonder why at some point it has to be monetarily, right? Why the government gets involved.
It's smart business strategy. They uploaded propaganda in the beginning. You can look up the Walt Disney files on the FBI website. It's open reading for anybody. Beginning starts off really simple. We're going to include Mickey Mouse and FBI agents in cartoons for the kids so they can look up to the FBI when they get older. Okay, well, towards the ending, he's ratting out people that calling them communists, having them deported and arrested because they're striking up labor unions because they just want equal pay and better rights. It always goes bad. I mean, propaganda's in every film. The just recently last year, over $550 million by the DoD was spent in influencing movies. People always think, oh, Top Gun, we know because the jets, they had to get anything with a military aircraft, military anything, they get an influence on your script. And when you say influence, how big is the influence? It could be something small, like the ending of Jurassic Park 3, where it says, thank God for the Marines. It can be that small, but it could also be huge, where you have like Pearl Harbor, the movie was influenced majorly by DOD, CIA, FBI, a bunch of different things. And then we had to go to Japan to get a sign off on it. So, Japan, there was a scene where a person was getting lit up on the ship and fell into the water. And Japan was like, cut that. You don't need that extra stuff. And the government's like, okay, but we're still going to make it pretty damning because you did affect us. And it's like, what happens if the directors say no? Well, then they go, okay, we're going to take all of our ships and everything that we're going to give you for the film. And if you're making Battleship, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah,
So
no shit.
that's like, I mean, it's a lot of films are like that. My issue is I just want people to be aware that you're being like, I wouldn't say programmed, but you're aware that everyone has an influence into your life, not just your parents, not just your friends, not just your neighbors, but things that you watch on TV. Everything has an influence in your life. And that's not saying like your life is rigged, which is why I really don't give a shit about anything anymore. But it's just letting people know like, hey, there's some things out there that you try your hardest at. Doesn't mean your shot wasn't right or you didn't do your best. It just meant that you're also fighting against like trying to get past 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's not an easy task. But once you get past 1,000, the algorithm tricks you up and then you start going up there. I can't talk about the things I want to talk about because it's YouTube would shadow ban me or these types of things that happen. I have Peter McCullough on, having him on again. Then what? That episode can't find it anywhere except on a certain platform, and then it limits your view scope and you can't talk about certain things. That's my issue. Is that like we live in a world where you're opening up the door saying the digital platform is the key to success and it's going to be a business venture for you to start your own life. But you're also saying I can delete it at any moment. And I can also make sure that you have to do what we say when the things that you do want to talk about, you can, but we want to make sure nobody fucking finds it. I don't, it's putting your success in the hands of others. And I never subscribe to that. I think it's the dumbest thing.
Two things. Battleship was fucked from the beginning, anyways. And then the second part, I think that they try to right?
Is that, I'm trying to see if that's my headset or your microphone.
What are you hearing?
Just hearing beeping.
Maybe it's my pacemaker. Want me to move this back a little bit?
Do you have a pacemaker?
No.
Dick Cheney has one.
Yeah. Cheney, talk about cover-ups and stuff getting swept under the
He
rug.
shot a man in the face hunting quail. I don't know if you've ever seen quail, but they're like a foot fucking tall. You'd have to kick that in the air and then fire it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The problem is I think that the people that cover up Dick Cheney's shooting somebody in the face, and let him get out of the way with it, make it so difficult for you to make that impact and do what you want to do that it would take more than your one lifetime. Like I think that's been the major goal, is to make it so difficult sometimes that your basic human will gets negated because it would take more than your lifetime, right? I think about that sometimes in regards to, so I love philosophy. I like to think. I don't know why, I'm just naturally that way. But when it comes to Aristotle and Socrates and Plato and how one continued the work of the other and continued the work of the other, right? All the knowledge that he was working on with this philosophy and thought process got passed on to this next human being who then had to dissect it even more and longer. And then that went on to another one. Essentially, that's what you would have to do, right? Like whatever your passion would be, whatever my passion is. If I'm going to make this huge impact and change, if I was up against media companies, which I guess I kind of am in some small capacity, I would never in my lifetime, more than likely, be able to tackle that, right? I might make, you know, somewhat of a dent, somewhat of an impact, and create somewhat of a focus, but it's not going to tackle NBC, ABC, CBS, any of that stuff. We've watched companies come up, rise up, and do that, like TNT, TN, Fox, like whatever, because of what you're talking about. The government influence, like they need it. They need those. They need those staples in order to have their influence to push propaganda to do whatever, whether it's a studio or whatever. And I think that that's one of their major goals is to make it so difficult that it's nearly impossible to do in one person's lifetime nowadays. The anomalies stick out, like, you know, would we have like the richest people in the world or whatever? Um, how that list has changed, moved up and down because of anomalies. And, you know, Elon Musk buys Twitter, like that can happen. But still, do I know for a fact because Elon Musk buys Twitter that now it's completely, fully truthful and honest? Right?
Yeah.
I don't actually fucking know that.
You're always going to have, I don't think anything is ever going to be truthful and honest. Everyone's got their own sales pitch or narrative that they want to push or influence that they want. Usually it's the deal, which is so they get something off of whatever you're offering and then you get something in return. It's kind of currency with words, but man, when you really look at like especially exposing stuff of the past and kind of looking at more historical stuff, I've started to find out that it's not so crazy. A lot of the things we talk about now, you can dive down the rabbit hole of like really truly dark conspiracy stuff. But I mean, Operation Mockingbird is real, and that's
What's
covert.
Operation Mockingbird?
It's media assets that worked with the government. Life magazine, some giant monoliths of newspaper corporations that are big back influencing back then. Around the time of the Kennedy assassination, I started noticing they had a meeting with some of the top newspaper people and all these types of things. It says it ended 3 months in 63. So after 3 months in 63, Operation Mockingbird died. Well, in the new release of documents that I found dated 65, not 63, it was said get your covert media assets to start labeling criticisms against the Warren Commission conspiracies. And you start kind of looking and you go, okay, so that's a lie. Wikipedia, whatever, the main source people are going to click on is the first link on Google when they search it. Says it ended 3 months in 63. This document says 65. So now it's proof that you guys are going longer than what you said you guys are doing or what the historical record is teaching. Then dive into my conversations with CNN broadcasters and Fox broadcasters. Your journalism is at risk because you can either pitch the story and someone tells you that this is going to mess up a business relationship that we have. So you're now risking your career if you run the story, or you risk your career, run the story, and tell the truth. So now you're influencing journalistic ethics. That's a big thing with also researchers as well too. Someone who's funding their research study like Big Tobacco did to do tobacco studies, you get a different conclusion. They tell you don't show those data, just show the other stuff, which benefits the big tobacco companies. And it's like, that's what you start understanding is like, it's not just like one thing, it's a million different spider web of things. And when you really kind of look at like what the media says, I mean, the only reason they could talk about conspiratorial stuff now is because they blame the other side of it. And that's fine. But if you're not doing like, I go and talk to both sides of the argument and try and decipher out my perspective of who's bullshitting me and who's not, and both sides are bullshitting. So then you just
Yes. Oh,
find the
that's what I was just
sliver
gonna
of truth.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what here's the thing. I'll ask you this because as I said, sometimes I'll just put a wall up and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna even go down that tangent because
That's
I
fair.
know like I'll just it could consume me, right, if I do. But I'll ask you because on your side, what do you do then? What do you do once you realize both sides are bullshitting?
Stop
What
giving
is
a shit. I'm telling you, it's the best feeling in the damn world. I'm not sweatpants confidence at a store not giving a shit, but I'm just like at this point, it's just like if you can talk about it, the best thing you do is like if I have documentation, you know how difficult it is to try and talk about the Kennedy assassination, and then everybody's telling you that conspiracy and they roll their eyes and walk away. When I'm staring at over 64,000 things of documents to compile into a 2.5 hour film, and I'm just looking at it like there is so much. And I've done the separate conversations that aren't even JFK related to talk about history. And my thing is the double standard. If you would say Martin Luther King was killed on the aspect of a conspiracy, people would believe it because they know about COINTELPRO, they know about a bunch of programs to really take down, certain ethnicities. But then just translate it to the Kennedy assassination. It makes a lot more sense when you kind of examine it from a simple standpoint. If you look at the height of communism back then, everyone hiding under their desk thinking that a desk would protect them from a bomb because communism was a threat to them. You label communists, it's like our equivalent today of labeling someone a terrorist.
Yeah.
You can say that, and then people go, do whatever you have to do. Handle this person. Just say that if you're looking like he's going to be soft on communism, like Kennedy was looking to a lot of the hardcore governmental people in his facility, it makes a little bit more sense to say, like, okay, you're a threat to this nation. Alan Dulles, the guy who's in charge of MK Ultra, he wasn't viewing it as like, I'm just going to torture the shit out of people. He was like, I got to do what we have to do to protect the country I love. Makes a little bit more sense than the deep, dark, sadistic type shit. And I'm sure he probably had some of that in him. But when you really kind of try and balance it through like the more modern perspective, which is that people make decisions that sometimes they feel like they have to do when they're pushed in a position to do so. We know that happens today. I mean, I just had my buddy on my show who's got his house raided by the FBI, and he's a hardcore patriot. But since he does a website about Area 51, they thought he was a domestic terrorist. And he basically is now left in $40,000 worth of damages and legal fees with no compensation. And the FBI says, we don't give a shit. And he goes, I didn't think they had the power to do this. And I go, yeah, our agencies don't fall under any guidelines. They could do whatever the hell they want. At any moment, they could take you and your whole business and get rid of it. And you would be like, why? Well, he was a terrorist. Okay. And then people just, that's why I was like, just educate yourself. It's not always need to be a conspiracy, but if you see something and you don't believe it or you hear something you don't believe it, why don't you believe it? Do they have documentation to back it up? If they can back it up with documentation and the thing you're trusting is a news source that has a stereotypical thing of being entertainment, to me, it's just like, shit. I mean, I don't have to do that much research, but I'm posting stuff on my story and trying to show people like I've done the independent conversations and all these people that aren't conspiracy theorists. And it's like, I can tell you that like what people have told me. Now, is that hearsay? Yes. But if I find a document that shows you something about killing Castro with a seashell, that's your agencies, man. And your government talking about people in America that are investigating the Kennedy assassination as being a problem. Why are they talking about you like you're a problem? They're supposed to work for you, right? And it's like
Right.
you kind of start looking into it a little bit more. It's like, okay, things are starting to make a lot more sense. And I know a lot of talk goes to the pandemic on these matters and stuff, but I'm just like, look, you're a person, you're going to make your own decisions. Don't expect people to give you the answer or know what they're doing. People make mistakes all the time. Investigations are just the clearest conclusion they have with the evidence that's presented to them. But I always bring up the example as like, there's the 3 shots at Kennedy, all of them hit. That went to 2 shots at Kennedy and one missed because James Tague, after they said that, had came out because he went to the hospital from a bullet hitting the cement and hitting his cheek. So now that 3 shots all hit Kennedy went to 2 shots. And I go, now that 100% certainty of this is what happened turns to 50%. Much like if I set a house on fire, I could show you a candle burning. I could show you a fork in a toaster. I could show you a bunch of different things. I give you 10 options. You're 100% certainty when you walk in the house without knowing those 10 options and you look at the electrical socket and see there's smoke coming out of it. You go, that's what started the fire. Okay, shake your hand. But then I show you the other 10 options or 9 options. And you go, okay, so it might not just be the electrical socket. There could be a bunch of different things. Exactly. So when you look at history, it's what's recorded, it's what's told. What about the other side? You know, I talk to people who are historians of other countries. They have a whole different perspective on many of the stuff as much as America's tearing it down. But none of those subjects or history matters. It's just one side being evil. Everybody's up to nefarious shit. And that's just war in general. So once I started understanding that, I'm like, oh, just people suck. People can be good
That's what I was
people,
just
but
gonna ask you, dude.
yeah.
I was gonna ask you, so with everything you've done, right, in the research that you put in, and understanding both sides, your outlook on the actual American population and if they will ever truly be free. Because to me, free means that you're uninfluenced and you make your own decisions. And sometimes people are influenced to think that they make their own decisions, right? They don't really know that they're not free because they've been either propagated propaganda or influence or education, right? Even education has an influence to make people a certain way, right? To make them part of the labor force and whatever. I mean, that's why it started essentially, right? These major companies wanted educated labor workers, so they started education early on. Um, what will will the population ever truly be free? And how would it ever happen?
People gotta stop fighting over each other. They gotta stop turning the problems in on themselves and other people around them, and look at the people that, do things deeper into what actually goes on into your life. That's why I
How
believe
do they
deep
turn the
state. It's
tide?
you just talk, have conversations. I'm so non-violent and non-aggressive on things, but there's so much stuff where you could literally take action by just not having to take action. You just conversate. Enough people change the tide on things. It's the same reason with like woke stuff. Like you don't need to cancel a comedian because they said something that you found offensive. If nobody laughs, they have to evolve their jokes. Does that make sense? Like they have to find new material if they're using the material and nobody laughs. The fact that people laugh is the reason why they keep using the material. So that's a societal change, not a comedian's change. All you're doing is destroying a person's livelihood. It's not the popular opinion, and people would disagree with that. That's fine. But unless you talk about things and you really kind of have the conversational mentality, and before, I'm not trying to get all into the government stuff because I like you. We're always been talking 2 hours. You could promote your links and everything. I don't want another government
No, no, no,
conversation.
no, no. We're having a conversation.
But no, it's really important. Like people just talk, much like me and you were doing. The first episode that we ever did compared to now. We've known each other a couple of years now. It's anybody can develop a relationship, and you don't have to like every single person in the world, but you sure as hell can hear a person's perspective out. I don't agree with everybody on my show, 100%. But
No, and you learn quite a bit too, dude. You learn, yeah, you soak up. You learn about them, but then also it provokes thought that makes you learn about yourself too, I think, as well. Like, here's the one thing, dude. As shitty as all the things that we have found out as we've been on this journey of life, like you were saying, it makes you appreciate, and I said, it makes you appreciate the little parts of it that are uncontrolled, that are just natural, like your buddies, relationships, whatever, moments. Those I think are the absolute high points because they're free. Like they're freedom. They're not influenced by all that stuff, right? Um, yeah, that's it. That's all I'm gonna say about those things, dude. Is I think that those are the ticket, right? But then you don't have if you put the importance on those and the happiness is based on those, then I don't think that you have this existential dread of everything is controlled. I don't have any power actually, and I'm just gonna end up however I'm gonna end up because of whatever influence I'm being influenced by. Right? I mean, I think that that's where you find those little nuggets of freedom and hope, or in those moments, pounding that pina colada and people being like, "Whoa, do it, do it," right? So, I don't know. That's my two bits on how I would do that. It is in conversation because the conversation is one of those moments that's uncontrolled by any kind of outside influence,
But you get real
right?
real thoughts on things. People can't really think trying to think in real time, sometimes you get facts wrong, but also at the same time you're getting an actual person's feelings and thoughts. And that's what you want. You don't need any more scripted stuff where it seems like the person's a gun to the back of their head.
Right, right. Or just regurgitating something that they read or heard or was influenced by, right? They came to their own conclusion, or maybe they're some of the best conversations, bro, are when you are having a conversation with somebody and you are realizing that they're having a realization in that conversation, right? And you're like, I know, cool, right? Yeah. And they're like, whoa, yeah, well, what about this? And what about that? And it's like, okay, we're two humans here, and one is discovering something about the other, and the other is discovering something about themselves. And I don't know, man. For me, that seems to be the highlight of human nature and interaction.
I'll have to have you come back on to talk more philosophy stuff. I know we never really dived down the philosophy route, but I could do that all day with you, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'd be glad to come back on and talk about it, dude. I spend a lot of time there. I don't know I don't know really why. I think maybe we can give some backstory or whatever, but I feel like everything dude, everyone's like, everything happens for a reason. It's like, yeah, it does. That's not always a good reason. It's not always a bad reason. Like things do happen. And more than likely they were meant to happen, right? The way the world and the universe works. But dude, I'll come back on. We'll talk about that. It's a big one.
Well, since there's a 2-hour limit for videos on Spotify, where can people find your links,
Oh,
Marvin?
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just type in Blacktop Banter on Google and you'll find anything that we do over here in the asphalt world. You can just find me on Facebook, Marvin Joles, or on LinkedIn or whatever, and then we can talk, personally rather than have to make it through the business aspect. But everything on Blacktop Banter, Google, Instagram, TikTok, type in Blacktop Banter, you'll find us.
And you can look at Marvin's past episodes on the show. And also, I'll make sure to link all his links in the description below so people can be able to find them. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank Podcast.